And this is, I'm going to ask Town Administrator Kevin Sweet to jump in on this. This is in regards to the Tri-County building renovation.
Yes, Mr. Chair, just wanted to get some additional opportunity for public awareness of this project and let folks know that haven't been aware or tuned in to the request for this project. So you kind of alluded to it a little bit on the updates on communications of what's going on and announcements, but just to reiterate, there's an election that'll be held on Tuesday, October 24th, 2023, amongst the 11 communities that make up the Tri-County Vocational Technical High School from 12 to 8 p.m. Again, for a $238 million regional vocational school to be built. Essentially, if the vote passes, the member communities will be responsible for paying approximately 200 million of that 283. The remaining reimbursement being part of an MSBA allowance totaling about $83 million. The cost of the high school construction will be added on to each member's community's annual assessment, essentially for the next 35 years based upon enrollment as of October 1st of each year. Each of the member communities will be responsible for identifying their own individual funding source, each to cover the expense, which is part of the discussion that I would like to have here, just with regards to a debt exclusion that we would likely be asking, if the project passes, the residents to consider. So again, residents are encouraged to attend informational sessions. Those that aren't aware, there's a building project website. That's tri-countybuilding.com, tri-countybuilding.com. There's also links and information on our town website on rentham.gov that will take you there with regards to the project that's being proposed. Once the project's complete, the impact is estimated for the town of Rentham at approximately $926,661. On the average, as an excluded project, on average of a $500,000 value home would be about $146.32. I say those are estimated preliminary numbers. Obviously, we don't know where interest rates will be and effectively what final borrowings, and also this exact timing of when a borrowing would take place. Is really still being determined based on bond council advisories to the high school project team that is considering that. So I would anticipate there could be some bans that would take place, bond anticipation notes, and ultimately they would be making the decision. Amongst them, it won't be any of the town really input on the timing of that, but certainly the communities will need to pass the project. It's 51% of the voting turnout. So it's, out of 11 communities, 51% of the communities would mean 6 communities would have to pass. But that's not the case. It's 51% of the actual 11 member communities voter turnout as a whole that passes the project. And then we as a community, if it does pass, we'll need to have some discussions and real conversations about how are we going to fund the now approved building projects. I think what we've talked around internally amongst our team is if it were to pass, potentially looking at adding to the ballot for a debt exclusion in the March presidential primary. And then the only other opportunity after that would be the April our own local election, which is a possibility as well. But I think many of the communities are considering utilizing the March primary for that purpose as well. So I don't know if the board has any specific questions about it. Again, I put it on as an agenda item. There's the timing, it being October 3rd and the actual turnout at the end of the month. They are, if you do visit the website, they are doing a number of sort of tours around the different communities. I know I did see something that they were on for the Rentham Democratic Committee. I don't know what other forums specific to Rentham, but there are many of the ones that they are doing formally are provided to participate via Zoom links as well. I think there is one actually that is scheduled for next Thursday on October 12th, that there is a Zoom link for, so members of the public could attend that if there's additional information that's needed, for our residents to make informed decisions. So that's all I had. Again, just wanted to get the discussion and dialogue going amongst our, certainly our board, but the public and get avenues to get the word out that this is happening.
So basically what it comes down to is Rentham can vote it down, but if 51% of the voters voted in, then it's going to happen. And if we don't vote it a debt exclusion, it comes out of our operating budget each year, like we had just pretty much recovering from the past 25 years.
That's absolutely correct. Yes, we'll be left to figure out how to fund it as a community, regardless of how the community as a whole, as you said, if Rentham were to vote it down amongst our voters and residents, but it passed percentage wise of in other communities, then the project passes, and we'll now have to have the conversation about how do we fund the project, as I said. So. And again, that's just that would be just the capital assessment. And what concerns me is we certainly don't have capacity in our levy to fund any project, of any kind of magnitude. So a debt exclusion would be absolutely critical in order to fund the project, because we just don't have the levy capacity. That 926 is an estimate now, but that also doesn't dictate our assessment, which impacts our general fund budget. So as more students attend the school, that shift also is carried over to the assessment as the number of students go up. The building capacity of the project is still capped, I think, at 1,000. So 1,000 students is 10, but as you all know, and there's data to back it up. Anytime a new building is built and new construction happens on the school, you see a wave that happens with students' interests are also generally more peaked with a new building. And that can last about 5 years or so. But there's absolutely some level of a trend that anytime you have new construction of a school building, that piques additional interest in attendance. We saw it when the Franklin High School opened. That's kind of shifting back now. We saw it when the new charter school for the elementary district in Benjamin Franklin opened. That interest peaked. So the added assessment within the general fund impact of number of students that go there. We know that the KP doesn't reduce their budget or asks or needs. Because if a few students didn't all either transferred or didn't enroll as a freshman into the high school, that doesn't really factor into the numbers being reduced on their assessment, because the cost doesn't necessarily go down until they have to start adding teachers and costs of instruction. So if it's the same cost to educate 22 versus 25 in the classroom, that cost is now a direct financial impact to the town of Rentham, because we're paying per pupil assessment for those that go to the Tri-County. So certainly a need. I mean, the building is aged. I think what bothers me a little bit is the timing. There's never really a good time. The longer you wait, projects go up. We see that even with our own, infrastructure needs and investment. But I think right now the system is broken at the legislative level in the statutes, particularly as it relates to vocational school reimbursements. The vocational school reimbursement for this MSBA project is about 52%, but the actual reimbursement, when you talk about actual costs, is only going to be around 30%. That's why when you look at that $238 million price tag, we're only going to see, we're going to be responsible for 200 million across the 11 communities, and the MSBA is only going to cover 83, because there's a significant lack of funding as it relates to hard costs as well as soft costs that need to be addressed. And there is legislation filed, and there's a number of other things. It's just the timing wise, there's other vocational schools that are behind us, and we'll see the Keefe in that district. And I know they're trying to fix it. It's not going to be fixed in time for this project, because there's a little bit of a balance of I just think as a district we're kind of not ready to be there. But it's certainly going it's certainly going to be a big impact for us as a community.
just two quick things. So what the debt exclusion would be is, well, if we didn't pass a debt exclusion, then the cost of the loan has to come out of our operating costs that we get from our taxes, our new growth, things of that nature, with the 2.5% increase every year. If we did a debt exclusion, we don't touch those funds, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, depending on where things are at, we would be cutting operations. Because it's just, there's just the capacity to be able to do that, as well as other costs that are increasing, within the general fund. Just in general, we have other health insurance trend right now is about 8%, just under 7.5%, 8%. So all those, as well as our retirement assessment going up 7.5% annually. So the only way to get there, which we're kind of absorbing some of those, is obviously within new growth and our 2.5%. It doesn't, to add this into that factor. I don't know how we get there without potential layoffs and reduction of significant conversations, because we just don't have the levy capacity. We're already, as you know, we're already utilizing free cash essentially to balance the town's operating budget. So that's an indication right off the bat that our levy capacity isn't there. Otherwise, we wouldn't be using free cash. We start out our fiscal year annually with a structural deficit because of that. So it's not feasible for us, and nor is it really feasible for most of the 11 communities, except for maybe a couple of the ones that have very few to no students attending. So we would definitely would be looking for the debt exclusion conversation.
All right, Selectman Anderson, any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Selectman Gallo.
Yeah, Mr. Kevin, sorry, Mr. Chair, Kevin, through you, Mr. Chair, just to be clear, so everyone is listening, or goes back and looks at the meeting later. This vote on October 24th, if Rentham votes it down as a community and the other 10 communities vote, I'm sorry, the average of the other 10 communities voted in, we are 100% still responsible for funding our share of this project, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, it's up to each individual community how they fund that. The district can't dictate that. So we would have to figure out, how do we pay for it? Not the question of how are we going to pay for it, but
so
how.
if it gets voted in collaboratively by all 11 communities on the 24th, we 100% have to fund our share of this project. Then the only question to the residents is, how are we going to pay for it? Are we going to do a debt exclusion, or are we going to try to pay for it from the operating, which we know we cannot do? What you're saying, we would have to have some very, very, very difficult conversations about cuts, service restrictions. Basically everything would be on the table at that point. I just want it to be crystal clear to the residents, because this is, anytime you talk about debt exclusion, it's a very hot button issue and topic. Taxpayer dollars, obviously everyone's watching. We're in a, we live in times where everyone is counting every penny that they have, or I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people are, right? So these are very, they're passionate conversations sometimes.
That's accurate.
Okay, so what I said is accurate. Thank you. No further questions.
Selectman Harrington.
Right, so the meeting that we attended probably 6 or 8 months ago, they explained it crystal clear that provided all the towns have the meeting on the same night, and it passes, whether we pass it or not, we pay for it. But it's got to be over 51% of them to pass it. If 51% don't, that's a different story. So one way or another.
Everybody's polling times are, because it's a district, the way that's structured, it has to be the same day, same time. So we'll know that evening, certainly where it's at, probably late that evening. The district will notify the managers in the communities of where things stand. But the polls are open from 12 to 8 p.m. So there's an 8-hour window, all on the same day, all the same time.
Each community, the same day, same time, and it has to pass by 51% of those communities.
Of those voting turnout.
Voter turnout or whatever. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And like I said, we had attended a meeting probably 6 or 8 months ago, and they
We
did a good job of explaining it. And the, it's going to be some hard conversations one way or another. Thank you.
Selectwoman Rose.
Just one quick question. Where else is it being advertised about the voting day? Just
So
in-
internally, we've posted it on the town website. We've pushed it out through social media. And we plan to do a reverse 911 call notice to folks as well about the day and time. And just through the town clerk
Okay.
office while she's doing some stuff. So, we're trying the best we can to get it out. I think it's a matter of the timing on potentially how early do we do it for the reverse 911 notice, and then timed again with a reminder, or do we do it closer? But we have been early on, as soon as the date was confirmed amongst all of the town clerks. We have been announcing it. So once that's been confirmed and delayed, the warrant for that has been submitted and filed accordingly. So that's been received by all the municipalities, town clerks, and the warrants finalized for it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So there's no action to be taken on this. So we're gonna go over to tab 8. And Kevin, you want to take this, or you want Chad to take it?
Yeah, I don't mind taking it. We're both members, led by our fearless leader, John, as the chair. As you know, and it's just the kind of town staff that are part of this in the select board. Both Joe Botosh and Chris Gallo represent the Board of Selectmen. On the Public Works Building Committee, we've had going back a number of years, there was some preliminary minor funding, probably about 7 or 8 years ago, to do a assessment of the existing property. This project has been on the forefront of the sort of the most critical infrastructure